Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins Collections, fellow coin enthusiasts. Today, we have an exciting and often overlooked coin to talk about, the 1975 Jefferson Nickel. Now, at first glance, this might just seem like any other 5-cent piece, but there's much more to this coin than meets the eye. Whether you're a seasoned collector or a casual coin lover, you'll want to stick around for this one, because the 1975 Jefferson Nickel could be hiding a surprising value. The Jefferson Nickel is one of the most iconic coins in the United States, and its design has been in circulation for decades. The coin features Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, the third president of the United States, who played a key role in the founding of the nation. On the reverse, you'll find Monticello, Jefferson's home in Virginia, which represents American history and the country's foundation. But what makes the 1975 Jefferson Nickel particularly special? To understand the value of this coin, we need to take a closer look at its rarity and the factors that set it apart from other nickels. The year 1975 was an interesting time for the United States. The country was coming out of the 1960s and 70s, a period marked by significant economic changes, and the U.S. Mint was producing coins during a time of transition. This is where the story of the 1975 Jefferson Nickel begins to get interesting. As with any coin, the condition plays a big role in determining its value. Most Jefferson Nickels, including the 1975 version, were produced in large numbers, which means that they were widely circulated. Over the years, they've been through a lot, handled, tossed around, and worn down. Finding a 1975 Jefferson Nickel in uncirculated or mint condition is relatively rare, and that's where the value starts to rise. Coins that have been well preserved, without any scratches or damage, are worth far more than those that have been heavily circulated. However, the 1975 Jefferson Nickel's value doesn't just come from its condition. There are some very unique factors that contribute to making this coin rare and highly valuable. One of the most exciting reasons collectors covet the 1975 nickel is because of a specific minting error that occurred during production. This error is known as the double die variety. Essentially, a double die error happens when the coin's die, the stamp used to imprint the design, shifts slightly during the minting process, causing the design to appear doubled. For the 1975 Jefferson Nickel, a double die error can make Thomas Jefferson's portrait, or even the inscriptions on the coin, appear slightly offset, creating a doubled image. These types of error coins are highly sought after because they're unique and different from the standard issue. Imagine owning a coin that's practically one of a kind. This is exactly why collectors are willing to pay big money for these rare finds. Another factor that makes the 1975 Jefferson Nickel special is the possibility of a filled die error. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin becomes clogged with grease, causing parts of the design to be missing or partially incomplete. A filled die error can result in a coin with missing details, such as a blurry date or a faded image of Jefferson's face. While these errors aren't as common, they can still make the coin more valuable if you happen to find one in your collection. But there's more. Some 1975 Jefferson Nickels were also produced with a slight misalignment, causing part of the design to be struck off-center. This type of error is known as an off-center strike, and it's a favorite among collectors because it makes the coin appear unusual and rare. Off-center strikes are relatively rare, and they can add significant value to the coin. Now, let's talk about the actual value of the 1975 Jefferson Nickel. While most of these coins might only be worth a few cents if they're in worn or circulated condition, the real value lies in those rare, well-preserved examples or those with unique errors. If you happen to have a 1975 Jefferson Nickel in mint condition, or even better, one with a double die error or an off-center strike, you could be looking at a coin worth much more than its face value. In fact, a 1975 Jefferson Nickel with the right conditions or a rare error could fetch as much as $33,000. That's right, $33,000 for a single nickel. It's incredible how a small coin like this, often overlooked by the average person, can hold such significant value to the right collector. So, if you're a coin enthusiast, it's definitely worth taking the time to check through your collection or even your spare change to see if you have any of these rare 1975 nickels. You might just have a small fortune waiting to be discovered. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the 1964 Jefferson nickel. This seemingly ordinary 5-cent coin might be hiding some extraordinary value that could surprise you. So, whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, this video is going to be both exciting and informative, so stick around. The Jefferson nickel has been in circulation since 1938, and it has become one of the most iconic coins in American history. The coin features Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, on the obverse side. On the reverse, you'll find an image of Monticello, Jefferson's estate in Virginia. It's a classic design that has been admired for decades and continues to be a staple of American coinage. But today, we're focusing on the 1964 version of the Jefferson nickel, a coin that might just be sitting in your collection, waiting to make you a small fortune. You may be wondering, what makes the 1964 Jefferson nickel so special? After all, it was minted in large numbers, and many of these coins were used in everyday transactions. However, there are some key factors that can turn this seemingly regular nickel into something far more valuable. The most important aspects are the rarity, condition, and potential errors that can make this coin stand out. Let's start by talking about the rarity factor. While the 1964 Jefferson nickel was minted in the hundreds of millions, not all of them have survived in pristine condition. Coins that have been heavily circulated over the years have been worn down, and the original details of the coin can become less visible. But if you happen to find a 1964 nickel that's been kept in uncirculated condition or one that's relatively free from wear, you've already got a more valuable coin than most people realize. But there's another reason why the 1964 Jefferson nickel is so special: minting errors. As with any coin, sometimes things go wrong during the production process, and these mistakes can result in unique coins that are worth a lot more than their face value. The 1964 Jefferson nickel is known for a particular error that collectors go wild for: the double die variety. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin shifts or misaligns slightly during the minting process, causing the design to be doubled. Imagine a 1964 Jefferson nickel where Thomas Jefferson's portrait or the inscriptions on the coin appear slightly blurred or doubled. This is what makes the double die variety so desirable. These coins are not just regular nickels, but rare, one-of-a-kind pieces. If you're lucky enough to come across a 1964 Jefferson nickel with this error, it could drastically increase the value of the coin, but the fun doesn't end there. Another error that can make the 1964 nickel more valuable is an off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not properly aligned during the minting process, causing part of the design to be missing or misaligned. Off-center coins are highly collectible because they are so rare, and collectors are always looking for these unique pieces. If you manage to find a 1964 Jefferson nickel with an off-center strike, you could be looking at a much more valuable coin than the average 5-cent piece. In addition to minting errors, another factor that can increase the value of the 1964 Jefferson nickel is its mint mark. The 1964 nickel was produced at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The mint mark, located just below Jefferson's shoulder, tells you where the coin was minted. While the coins from each mint are generally similar, the ones from certain mints may be slightly rarer than others, which can make them more valuable to collectors. For example, the 1964 nickel with a D mint mark from the Denver Mint tends to be more common, but if you find one with an S mint mark from the San Francisco Mint, it may be worth a bit more due to its relative scarcity. Now, you're probably wondering, how much could a 1964 Jefferson nickel really be worth? Most of these coins, in regular, circulated condition, are worth just a few cents, nothing more than their face value. But if you find one in near-perfect condition, or if it has a rare minting error like a double die or off-center strike, the value can rise significantly. A well-preserved, uncirculated 1964 Jefferson nickel with the right error could be worth as much as $44,000. That's right, $44,000 for a single nickel. It's incredible to think that a coin, which is often overlooked in change jars or mixed into collections, could hold such extraordinary value. So, next time you're flipping through your change or digging through your coin collection, take a moment to look for those 1964 Jefferson nickels, especially if they're in pristine condition or have any minting errors. You might just be holding onto a rare treasure. Today, we're diving into a fascinating coin that may surprise you with its value, the 2004 Jefferson nickel. When you think of rare and valuable coins, the 2004 Jefferson nickel might not be the first coin that comes to mind. After all, it's a relatively recent coin, and it's still circulating in everyday change. But trust me, there's much more to this coin than meets the eye, and it has the potential to be worth a lot more than just 5 cents. The Jefferson nickel has been a cornerstone of U.S. coinage since 1938, featuring Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his iconic home, Monticello, on the reverse. The design has undergone some changes over the years, but the 2004 Jefferson nickel introduced a unique twist that catches the eye of collectors, a new series of reverse designs. This was part of the Westward Journey nickel series, which celebrated the exploration of the American frontier, featuring an updated design on the reverse side that depicted a scene of westward expansion. It was a big deal for coin collectors when it was released, but here's the catch: while most of the 2004 Jefferson nickels were mass-produced and circulated in everyday transactions, not all of them are created equal. There are several factors that can make a 2004 Jefferson nickel particularly rare and valuable, and today, we'll uncover those hidden gems that could be worth thousands of dollars. First, let's talk about condition. If you're a coin collector, you know that the condition of a coin plays a huge role in determining its value. The 2004 Jefferson nickel, like most modern coins, was minted in large quantities. However, the majority of these coins were used in everyday transactions and, over time, suffered from wear and tear. If you happen to come across a 2004 Jefferson nickel in mint condition, one that's been carefully preserved, free from scratches, dents, or other signs of heavy circulation, you're already looking at a more valuable coin than the average one. Now, let's dive into the world of minting errors. This is where the real excitement begins. Collectors are always on the lookout for coins that have some sort of defect or error during the minting process. And believe it or not, the 2004 Jefferson nickel has its share of these fascinating minting errors that make it stand out. One of the most intriguing errors that has been found in the 2004 Jefferson nickel is the double die variety. This error happens when the coin's die, which is used to strike the design onto the coin, shifts slightly during the minting process. This misalignment causes the design to appear doubled, making the details of Thomas Jefferson's portrait, the inscriptions, or even parts of Monticello look blurry or duplicated. If you find a 2004 Jefferson nickel with this double die error, you've got yourself a rare and valuable coin that's sure to attract attention from collectors. Another common error that can make the 2004 Jefferson nickel worth more is a misaligned die, or off-center strike. This occurs when the coin is not perfectly centered in the press during the minting process, causing part of the design to be cut off or misaligned. These off-center coins are highly sought after because they are unique. There's no other coin exactly like it. An off-center strike on a 2004 Jefferson nickel can increase its value significantly, especially if the misalignment is dramatic enough to make the design stand out, but there's more. Some 2004 Jefferson nickels are known for having a filled die error. This happens when the die used to mint the coin becomes clogged with grease, causing parts of the design to be incomplete or unclear. A filled die error on a 2004 Jefferson nickel might result in missing details, such as a blurry date or part of Monticello fading out. Coins with this type of error are highly desirable to collectors because they're rare, and they provide a glimpse into the fascinating process of coin production. And don't forget about the role that mint marks play in determining the value of a coin. The 2004 Jefferson nickel was minted in multiple locations across the United States, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint has its own mint mark, which can sometimes affect the value of the coin, depending on how many were produced at that specific location. While the differences may seem subtle, they can be important to collectors who are looking for coins from specific mints or certain rarities. Now, you're probably wondering just how much a 2004 Jefferson nickel could be worth. If you found one in pristine, uncirculated condition or with one of these unique minting errors, you could be sitting on a small fortune. Most standard 2004 Jefferson nickels are worth no more than their face value of 5 cents, but the rare ones with minting errors or those in excellent condition can fetch a pretty penny. For example, a 2004 Jefferson nickel with the right error could be worth as much as $30,000. That's right, $30,000 for a single nickel. So, if you have a 2004 Jefferson nickel that looks a little different from the rest, or if you find one in your change with an error or minting anomaly, you could be holding on to a valuable piece of American coinage history. Coins like these are more than just currency, they're rare collectibles that tell the story of how America's coins are made and the fascinating mistakes that sometimes happen along the way. Today, we're going to talk about a coin that could be more valuable than you might think, the 1989 Jefferson nickel. If you're a fan of American coins, or if you simply enjoy the thrill of discovering rare finds, you'll want to listen carefully to everything we have to share about this intriguing nickel. This coin, which may seem like just another piece of pocket change, could be worth thousands of dollars. The Jefferson nickel has been a staple of U.S. coinage since it was first introduced in 1938. It features Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello, his historic home, on the reverse. The design has remained largely consistent over the years, but the 1989 Jefferson nickel stands out for a few reasons that can make it especially valuable to collectors. You might be surprised to learn that this relatively modern coin has some hidden potential that could turn it into a rare and sought-after treasure. First, let's talk about rarity. The 1989 Jefferson nickel was produced in relatively high quantities, with millions of coins circulating across the United States. Most of these coins have been used in everyday transactions, which means that the vast majority are not in great condition. The coins that have been worn down from years of use lose their value. So, if you happen to come across a 1989 nickel that has been well preserved, without scratches, dings, or signs of heavy circulation, you're already looking at a more valuable coin than most others. The key to finding a coin that's worth more than its face value lies in its condition. But what really makes the 1989 Jefferson nickel stand out is the potential for minting errors. For coin collectors, errors are some of the most exciting and valuable finds. And let me tell you, the 1989 Jefferson nickel is no exception. Some of these coins were struck with unique errors that make them significantly more valuable than the standard version. These mistakes in the minting process create one-of-a-kind coins that collectors eagerly hunt for. Let's take a look at a few of these potential errors that could make your 1989 Jefferson nickel worth far more than you might expect. One of the most common errors found on the 1989 Jefferson nickel is the double die variety. This happens when the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly during the minting process, causing the design to appear doubled. This means that the details of Thomas Jefferson's portrait or the inscriptions on the coin might be duplicated, making them look blurry or fuzzy. The double die error is highly sought after by collectors because it's a rare mistake that adds a unique characteristic to the coin. If you happen to have a 1989 Jefferson nickel with a double die error, it could greatly increase the coin's value, making it much more than just a 5-cent piece. Another error to keep an eye out for is an off-center strike. This occurs when the coin is not properly aligned during the minting process, causing part of the design to be off-center or cut off entirely. Off-center coins are some of the most prized by collectors because they are extremely rare. If you find a 1989 Jefferson nickel with an off-center strike, it could be worth a lot more than a typical coin from that year. The more extreme the misalignment, the more valuable the coin becomes, as it adds a distinct and interesting feature that makes it stand out from the rest. Additionally, some 1989 Jefferson nickels have been found with a filled die error. This happens when the die, which is used to imprint the design onto the coin, becomes clogged with grease, dirt, or other debris during the minting process. As a result, some parts of the design may be missing, making the coin appear incomplete or faded in certain areas. These filled die errors are highly collectible because they represent a flaw in the minting process and add to the coin's uniqueness. A 1989 Jefferson nickel with a filled die error could be a rare find that's worth much more than its face value. Now that we've covered some of the key errors and features that can make a 1989 Jefferson nickel rare, let's talk about how much it could be worth. As with most coins, the value of the 1989 Jefferson nickel depends on its condition and whether it has any minting errors. Most standard 1989 nickels are worth no more than their face value of 5 cents, but the coins with the right errors or those in pristine condition can be worth a lot more. In fact, a 1989 Jefferson nickel in perfect condition, or one with a significant minting error, could be worth as much as $37,000, yes, you heard that correctly, $37,000 for a single nickel. It's incredible to think that a coin that's just 5 cents in its standard form could be worth such an astonishing amount of money. So, the next time you come across a 1989 Jefferson nickel, take a moment to inspect it carefully. Look for any signs of doubling, off-center strikes, or any other minting errors that could make it a rare find. Today, we've got a very special coin to talk about, the 1987 Jefferson nickel. You might not think of this as a coin that could make you a lot of money, but trust me, there's more to it than meets the eye. If you're a coin collector, or even just someone who enjoys the thrill of finding a rare gem in your spare change, you're going to want to stick around until the end because the value of this coin may surprise you. The Jefferson nickel has been part of American coinage since 1938, featuring the likeness of President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his iconic home, Monticello, on the reverse. This design is one of the most recognizable in U.S. history and has remained relatively consistent over the years. However, when it comes to collecting coins, it's the subtle differences, rarity, and sometimes even minting errors that can elevate the value of an otherwise standard coin. That's where the 1987 Jefferson nickel comes into play. First, let's talk about the production numbers. The 1987 Jefferson nickel was minted in large quantities, with millions of these coins circulating across the United States. Most of these coins were used in everyday transactions, which means they've been subject to wear and tear. As you may know, the condition of a coin plays a crucial role in its value. Coins that have been heavily circulated are typically worth only their face value, 5 cents, while coins that are in excellent or uncirculated condition are much more valuable. If you come across a 1987 Jefferson nickel that looks as though it just came out of the mint, you've got something worth paying attention to. Now, let's dive into what really makes the 1987 Jefferson nickel so interesting for collectors. In the world of numismatics, it's not just the date or the design that matters, it's the potential for errors that can make a coin far more valuable. And believe it or not, the 1987 Jefferson nickel is known to have some fascinating errors that could send its value through the roof. One of the most sought-after errors on the 1987 Jefferson nickel is the double die variety. If you're not familiar with what a double die error is, let me explain. It happens when the die that strikes the coin shifts slightly during the minting process, causing the design to be stamped more than once. This results in the details, such as the date, inscriptions, or Thomas Jefferson's portrait, appearing doubled or blurry. Collectors love these errors because they're unique, and they make the coin stand out from the rest. If you find a 1987 Jefferson nickel with a double die error, it could be worth a lot more than just its face value. And it doesn't stop there. There are even some coins where the error is so pronounced that it can dramatically increase its price on the collector's market. Another error to keep an eye out for is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin is not properly aligned in the minting press, resulting in part of the design being cut off or misaligned. These off-center coins are highly prized by collectors because they are one of a kind. An off-center 1987 Jefferson nickel can add a unique twist to your collection, and if you come across one, you're holding a rare find. And let's not forget about the filled die error, which happens when the die that stamps the coin gets clogged with grease, dirt, or other debris. This can cause part of the design to be missing, blurry, or unclear. A filled die on a 1987 Jefferson nickel can make the coin appear incomplete, but that imperfection is exactly what collectors are looking for. The more noticeable and extreme the error, the more valuable the coin becomes. These minting errors, combined with the overall rarity of a 1987 Jefferson nickel in uncirculated condition, can lead to some impressive values. While most of these nickels may only be worth their face value of 5 cents, coins with the right errors and in the right condition can fetch a significant price. So, just how much could a 1987 Jefferson nickel be worth? If you've got one of these coins with a major minting error or in pristine, uncirculated condition, you could be looking at a value as high as $34,000, yes, that's right, $34,000. It's incredible to think that a coin worth just 5 cents could have such a high value. This is why coin collectors and numismatists are constantly on the lookout for those rare and unique pieces that can really stand out in their collection. You never know what you might find hidden in your spare change or tucked away in an old jar of coins. So, take a moment to carefully check your 1987 Jefferson Nickels. You could be holding onto something truly special. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1987 Jefferson Nickel, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on future discoveries. Whether you're just starting your coin collection or you're a seasoned collector, there's always something new to learn and uncover. Keep searching, keep collecting, and who knows, your next big find could be just around the corner. Today we're diving into the fascinating world of one of the most iconic U.S. coins, the 1971 Jefferson Nickel. At first glance, it may seem like just another nickel, but hold on to your hats, because this little coin could be worth a lot more than its face value. Whether you're a seasoned coin collector or someone who simply loves to learn about rare treasures, this video is going to pique your interest. Stick around until the end, and you'll find out just how much a 1971 Jefferson Nickel can really be worth. Now, let's set the stage for this coin. The Jefferson Nickel, a classic piece of American coinage, has been in circulation since 1938. Featuring Thomas Jefferson on the front and Monticello, the home he designed, on the back, this coin has been part of everyday life for decades. It's hard to imagine that something as familiar as this coin could have hidden value, but trust me, there's more to it than meets the eye. The 1971 Jefferson Nickel was minted in large quantities, which means that most of the coins you'll come across are relatively common. However, there are a few reasons why a 1971 nickel could stand out and catch the eye of collectors. First, let's talk about condition. As with any coin, the state of preservation plays a huge role in determining its value. Most 1971 nickels you'll find have been heavily circulated, which means they've likely been worn down from years of use. These coins are not going to fetch a fortune, probably just their face value of 5 cents, but here's where it gets interesting. While most 1971 Jefferson nickels are worn and well used, there are some rare examples that have managed to survive in pristine, uncirculated condition. These coins are in such good shape that they look as though they just came from the mint, and that can make them significantly more valuable than their circulated counterparts. If you're lucky enough to find a 1971 nickel that's free from scratches, dings, or discoloration, you're already looking at a rare and more valuable coin than most. Now, the real excitement comes from the potential for minting errors. And let me tell you, the 1971 Jefferson Nickel has a few quirks that can make it a truly valuable find for collectors. Coin errors are some of the most sought-after pieces in the world of numismatics, and 1971 Jefferson Nickels are no exception. One of the most desirable errors in this series is the double die variety. You might be wondering, what exactly does that mean? Well, a double die error occurs when the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly during the minting process, causing the design to be stamped more than once. This results in a doubled appearance of the coin's details, such as the date or the inscriptions. If you find a 1971 Jefferson nickel with this error, you're looking at a very special coin, and its value could skyrocket. Another key error to watch for is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin isn't properly aligned in the minting press, causing the design to be misaligned or partially cut off. These off-center nickels are incredibly rare, and collectors will pay a premium for them because of their unique and interesting appearance. If you happen to find a 1971 Jefferson nickel with an off-center strike, it could be worth far more than you'd expect. Additionally, some 1971 nickels have been found with a filled die error. This happens when debris, such as grease or dirt, gets into the die during the minting process, which can cause parts of the design to be incomplete or appear blurry. While these errors might seem minor to some, they are highly sought after by collectors who are looking for the rarest of the rare. A filled die error on a 1971 Jefferson nickel can make it much more valuable than a standard coin. So, what's the big takeaway here? The 1971 Jefferson nickel is not just a regular coin, it's a coin that could be hiding a small fortune, especially if you find one in excellent condition or with one of those sought-after errors. But how much can it really be worth? Well, if you happen to find a 1971 Jefferson nickel that's in mint condition, or if it's one of the rare coins with a valuable error, it could be worth as much as $39,500. That's right, $39,500. It's unbelievable to think that a coin worth just 5 cents in its regular state could turn into such a valuable collector's item. So, next time you're going through your spare change or hunting through old coin collections, take a closer look at any 1971 Jefferson Nickels you might have. It could be your lucky day. If you enjoyed learning about this rare coin and its hidden potential, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on more exciting coin discoveries. Whether you're just getting started with coin collecting or you've been in the game for years, there's always something new to uncover. Thanks for watching, and happy hunting for your next treasure.